A lot of you probably already have hate boners for me right now because of the title of this video. I do not love the Halloween franchise. In fact, I generally speaking don't really care for it that much. Now, don't get me wrong, I am excited for the new Halloween movie coming out next year just as much as I'm excited for the next Friday the 13th, the next Saw, the next Chucky. I'm a horror fan, and so even though I don't particularly love the franchise, I'm always ready to give it a chance with every new movie that comes out. So, the reason why I don't love the Halloween films is for its sequels, the majority of them that is, and I'm not really going to talk too much about the John Carpenter version, the very first one, basically because I already have a review of this movie and I feel like I would be retreading territory that I've already explored, so I'm not going to really discuss the first movie any further. I'm just going to set it down and move on to the sequels, because that's what this discussion is really going to be about today. And this being Halloween, I figured why not do it today. I was going to do it a couple days ago after I did my Ghost video, my concert experience seeing Ghost, which if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and give that a watch. But since you're here, I figure I may as well go ahead and start. I'll begin with the first of the sequels, that being Halloween 2. This movie was released in 1981, takes place immediately after the first film, follows the same exact characters, the ones that survived the first film. Laurie Strode has now been transferred to the local hospital for treatment after sustaining some very serious injuries from the events of the first film. She has been the victim of the serial killer Michael Myers, and it's in this film that we find out that Michael Myers is after her because she is his little sister and she is the only remaining member of his family. So the whole film is about Michael trying to complete the task he set out to do in the first film, which was to kill Laurie Strode, with Dr. Sam Loomis, again played by Donald Pleasance, hot on his path. He does his best to get to Michael before Michael gets to Laurie. Also, Charles Cyphers comes back to reprise his role as Sheriff Brackett. It has his name very clearly on the title or on the DVD cover, which is very odd because Charles Cyphers is barely in the movie. He's only in it for about 5 minutes. So to put his name on the DVD, and he's not even that big of an actor to begin with, as far as I know. I don't really know him from anything else other than the Halloween movies. So why they put his name on the box is very, very bizarre. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they figured that he was a big star from after the first film. Really, I think the only stars who gained such a big presence in the film industry was John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis. Donald Pleasance had already established himself as one of Hollywood's greatest actors, but the original Halloween really brought John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis into the spotlight. And a lot of people like to disregard all the sequels together because of how iconic the first movie is. And I can understand that. You know, the first film is a very well-known horror movie with a very simple premise that is told and watched every year throughout Halloween, and so to expand on the story kind of seems a little risky, and a lot of people don't like the direction it went. I, however, love Halloween 2. I think this is one of the best horror sequels. I love how it takes place right after the first movie. I love how it brings back all the actors from the first film, except for the man who played Michael Myers. He was replaced by Dick Warlock. In fact, I believe there were more than one person who played Michael in the first film. I think it was a multiple amount of people, including John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. They even put on the mask for a few shots, apparently. But Halloween 2, it's a very worthy sequel. I love the hospital. It's a very doomy, very creepy atmosphere, very big, very isolated. You would think it's the safest place you could possibly be, but in Halloween 2, it is very much not. It is actually one of the worst places you could possibly be. And I think that really worked. I think Halloween 2 was a very well done sequel, and I'm happy to consider it as one of the best of the 80s. Halloween 2, great movie. The next one is Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch. This one gets a lot of hate because Michael Myers is not in it. Well, he is, but he is only in it for a little bit, and he is shown on the TV as a clip from the original Halloween. In this film, the original Halloween was just a movie. It did not actually happen, and this film does not follow the same continuity as the first two, which is why a lot of people don't like it. I am not so quick to dismiss it because of that. I actually love the direction it went. I love that they decided to go with an anthology series. I would have preferred that a lot more. However, I just don't really care for the concept of killer masks. I guess I just feel that I'm not the only person who gets freaked out by killer masks, but whatever. I don't know. This movie was very boring, I found. It had a very good Halloween feel to it. It felt just like the first one. You watch it and you're just thinking to yourself, without even knowing the name of the movie or what it is, you know, Halloween. It has a very, very good feel to it, that good Halloween feel to it, that only a few amount of films in the movie got. Halloween 3, like I said, it had a good setting, good feel to it. I just don't like the premise. I found the film to be pretty boring. I didn't like any of the characters. And ultimately, it was ruined for me by the release of Halloween 4. Now, I like Halloween 4. I don't think it's one of the best of... Well, yeah, I guess when you compare it to many of these other pieces of shit, it is a pretty good movie. I like Halloween 4. But it did ruin Part 3 for me. Part 3 was willing to go in another direction that we weren't expecting. I was really excited to see what else they were going to do, maybe improve on Part 3, but instead they pussied out and just went with another Michael movie. It was a good idea to bring him back, otherwise possibly the series would not have continued much further after Part 3 being critically panned, but I think Part 4, even though it did play it a little too safe, it was a good entry in the series. It brought us back to familiar territory. It brought back Michael. It introduced a new slew of new characters while keeping Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis in it, even though he was blown the fuck up at the end of the second one and burnt to a crisp along with Michael. They somehow both survived their injuries, which is another flaw I have with it. It is one that you do have to kind of let go of some, of the realism, because these movies, it's about an unstoppable killer who can take multiple gunshots, stabs. You cannot kill this character, so I guess it makes sense that you can't really kill the protagonist either. Or can you? Because with Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, the one that I found to be the biggest disappointment of the series, they killed off one of the main protagonists from Part 4 within the first 15 minutes. She was only given about 5 to 6 minutes of screen time. She was one of the best characters. She was probably my personal favorite character from Part 4. I even liked her more than Dr. Loomis. That was the character of, spoiler alert, Rachel, the older sister to Jamie, who was the daughter of Laurie Strode in the first two films, but Laurie Strode has died in a car accident, and she is not present for the events of Part 4. But her daughter Jamie, as well as Rachel, are the main protagonists, and they carry on over to Part 5. Spoiler alert, they live, but Rachel is killed off very quickly in Part 5, just like Jamie is killed off very quickly at the beginning of Part 6. Now, I think Part 6 is a very big improvement over Part 5. For instance, this one had the feel of Halloween that I like. Part 4 and Part 5, they did their best to capture the Halloween atmosphere, but personally I don't think it necessarily worked, whereas I feel like they got it spot on with Part 6. I think Michael was intimidating again after watching him cry like a little bitch in Part 5. So I thought Part 6 was a fairly entertaining movie in the sense that it had very good kills, it had a very good atmosphere, and Michael was scary again, I felt. But the characters was really my only problem with the movie. I didn't even have a problem with them giving Michael a backstory, because after about 5 or 6 movies, the whole idea of him being completely unknown and completely masked and nobody knows his motive is going to get a little old and a little dry. So, though I think it could have been done better in Part 6, I'm glad that they gave it a try. They did, and they could have been worse. It could have been Much, much worse. It could have been that he was resurrected by his mother, like some people like to argue for the Halloween or the Friday the 13th movies. But Part 6, I don't think is a terrible movie. It's not one to write home about either. But if you're a fan of the Halloween films and you haven't checked it out yet, it is worth watching. It is better than Part 5 and Part 4, and it is most certainly better than the next piece of shit, Halloween H20. I'm going to get two of them out of the way here. Halloween H20 and Halloween Resurrection. These are probably my two least favorite, aside from maybe Part 3 being worse than H20. However, I think that this one, Halloween Resurrection, takes the cake for the biggest pile of dog shit in the entire series. All the problems with these movies can literally be counted on one hand. Terrible characters, bad acting, and bad dialogue. Michael Myers is completely worn out in these movies. I'm not gonna lie, by the time it got to H20, even though they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back and they gave her a backstory saying, hey, she actually didn't die, she faked her own death to start a new life and get away from Michael. It didn't matter to me. By this point, I was pretty much done with the Michael movies and I was ready for the remake, so the fact that they just went ahead and hashed out two more pieces of shit wasn't really what I was hoping for. Jamie Lee Curtis is back in both of these movies, though. She dies very quickly at the beginning of Halloween Resurrection. Way to build the suspense, guys. Kill your fucking main character at the beginning of your movie, instead of wait to see it till the end if they die at the end or not. Oh well. Not good movies, but if I had to recommend either of these two more than the other, I would say H20 is a far better movie, because this movie had a good ending. Other than that, I would stay clear of both of these movies like a AIDS-ridden whore. Alright, and now the last two. Rob Zombie's remake films. The first one and the second one. Personally, I love this movie. I've talked about it before in my top 5 most embarrassing video. If you want to know more of what I think about this movie, go check that out. It's a really good remake. It's faithful to the original, and it's also inventive. It brings a lot of new things that Rob Zombie envisioned, and it was pretty cool. It was a good remake. I really like this remake. But this one, on the other hand, is very, very weird. Not the absolute worst of the series like most people consider it. Really, when it comes to the worst, it's, for most fans, it's one of these three. To me, it's this one. But this one, I would even admit I like more than Resurrection, Part 3, Part 5, and H20. It's not a good movie. It's not an okay movie. It is bad. They took these characters that I came to love so much in this film and completely bastardized them. It made Michael out to look like a schizophrenic tool who does all of this for his mother, his dead mother, the spirit of his deceased mother. And there's a white horse. Fuck it, I'm done. No. You lost me right there when you bring in the white horse into a Halloween movie. So, for all these reasons and more that I probably didn't even mention, that is why I do not love the Halloween series like all of you horror hounds out there do. I love Part 1, Part 2, and the remake, and I like Part 4. I think Part 6 is okay, but then there's 5 other movies that I just can't stand. So I cannot say that Halloween is the gold standard of all horror franchises when half of the series sucks. So that's all I had to say. Thank you for watching. Happy Halloween. Catch you all in the next video. Peace.